So our next speaker is hopefully going to give us some more insight into these things. So Hein Coetzee, be covering stumbling blocks in the move towards organic food production in South Africa with specific reference to temperate fruit production. His experience in deciduous fruit marketing, growing and packing with technical expertise in the pre-harvest and post-harvest horticultural aspects of stone fruit, grapes, citrus and pomme. He's also got a keen interest in new varieties. He's completed an MBA at Stellenbosch, and he's got a key interest in leadership and strategic management. Hein, please grace us with your presence. Thank you. We look forward to it.
Hierdie ene. Okay. Goeiemôre almal. Ja, dis nou die graveyard shift hierdie, so ek vra toe my vriend Kalla, dit toe. Is daar iets wat 'n mens kan sê wat almal kan wakker maak? Toe sê Pieter Dol het eendag vir hom gesê, maar daar's 'n nuwe webwerf wat sê www.newjogs.com. So julle kan elkeen sommer gaan lees daarso. So, om wakker te bly. Ja, ek dink my praatjie it really fits in with what Prof. Dani has said, and thank you, Mr. Chair. In terms of research, and I think it's very important that research add value, and I hope my research did add some value on a practical level, on a farm level side. And then also, Paul, definitely the Green Deal and the Farm to Fork projects. Yes, Europe is becoming greener, and the world is changing. And sustainability is becoming very much a political narrative. So I think to start off with that, the reason I have looked at this research was when I was still doing marketing, I was always confronted with the question, but can you supply organic fruit from South Africa? And well, at that stage, I couldn't, and I also think that South Africa per se does not produce a lot of organic fruit. So it interested me, it was very interesting to me, but what is the reason that South Africa does not produce organic fruit? It's being embraced by a lot of other countries. Yes, there's subsidies, there's climate difference, there's a lot of things, but and there's a lot of aspects that other countries you could say is different than South Africa. But I think the main thing is, the question still remains, why do we not produce any organic fruit? And the question here is not about is organic safer or is conventional safe, or the question is why don't we embrace the concept of producing organic temperate fruits, which is in our terms deciduous fruit. So that's why I looked at the stumbling blocks in the move towards organic fruit production in South Africa, and I looked at specifically deciduous fruit. And I wanted to go back a little bit. What is influencing the grower's mindset when he makes this decision? Will he entertain the thought of maybe thinking about producing organic, or will he just immediately take it off the table that no, it's not going to work? It's too much of a hassle. So it always intrigued me what is happening in the thinking process. So yeah, so maybe we must unpack it a little bit, and I think this slideshow is going very quickly. Yes. Yeah, so basically with organic, you get a conventional apple, you get an organic apple with a 20 to 70% price premium, and which one will you buy? And last week I was in America, and it's exactly that. It is a 40% premium on organic fruit compared to conventional fruit. So the premium is there, and again, there can be a lot of arguments, but will the premium be sustainable? Can you sell a lot of volumes with that? That's not exactly the point at the moment. The premium is there. So it's an industry problem. There's a growing demand for, and I focused a little bit of apples and pears. There's a growing demand for apples and pears organic. Main European supermarkets are looking for this products, which we, of course, cannot supply. But there is supply from Argentina. There is supply from New Zealand. There's Italy, France, Poland, China. It seems that other countries in a way, is embracing organics and is, in a way, producing organics. Now, we can unpack a lot of the details why they are doing that or why it's maybe easier for them, but in a certain way, they're embracing the production of organic apples and pears or organic deciduous fruit. But there's no supply from South Africa. So maybe a little bit of the research, what is organic? And all of you know, in a way, what is organic. Even my 10-year-old son, my grade 10 son told me what he thinks is organics, and immediately he just said, it's fruit without pesticides. Well, it's a bit deeper than that, but organic farming is the concept of producing food in a sustainable manner with a balance between agroecological approaches and productivity. Alan and Alibaba, I think it's that, Alibaba, yes. Simplistically, just defined organic is the way in which agricultural products are grown without the use of pesticides and chemical fertilizers. I think we all know that one. That is fairly simple. And then the demand for organic food is currently getting considerable traction due to consumer perception that organic foods are safe to consume and environmentally friendly. Again, we can unpack it, but that is what consumers are thinking. So, what is the worldwide demand for organic fruit? And for organic food per se, but we'll go into fruit as well. So the organic demand, it's because of food safety and health, of course, and it's perception. During my research, I mean, there's a lot of things in organic that you would think, but sure, is this also good for you? I think of sulfurs and coppers and everything that they use a lot. But there's a perception that, well, there's a definite thinking pattern that organic is safe, and obviously food safety and health is getting a lot of traction. Environmental protection and sustainability is exactly what Paul was talking about now with the Green Deal and Farm to Fork projects. And then global organic food sales in 2020, this is the latest report I could find, was about 120 billion euros, which is quite substantial. But this is now all food, organic food. And the most is consumed in North America and then Europe, and the rest is very small. Even Amazon, and I think all of you know that George Bezos are quite forward-thinking, but even Amazon has now acquired Whole Foods, which is an organic supermarket chain in the United States. And because they see the value in organic and the growth in organic food supply. Then the South African demand, it's not as large as USA and Europe, but definitely there is in retail. And in discussions with all the major South African supermarkets, there is a demand for organic, but there's very little supply. And you cannot really open a line if you cannot supply it with substantial volumes. I mean, there's no way you can open a line. Then you just don't do it. So there is demand, but there's no supply. Then the global production of organic food. Now, this is very intriguing. So one can easily, again, have a lot of arguments why it will not work in South Africa and why it's a cumbersome process. And there's a lot of reasons why not to do it. But the global production is actually very interesting. In 2020, all food types, now this is now dairy and meat and fruit and vegetables, was about 75 million hectares, was formally certified organic. It was about 3.4 million growers, and there was a growth already from a fairly large base. There was a growth of 4.1% from 2019. If we just talk temperate fruits, there's about 255,000 hectares formally certified, not quasi-organic, formally certified organic in the world. Sure, it goes quick. And then apples is about is about 22,000 hectares, apricots 33,000 hectares, plums 20,000 hectares, formally certified organic in the world. So somewhere, somehow, growers are seeing the value of organic production, and they're getting it right. Obviously, apples are the most, and so that's quite interesting. Then in South Africa, that is 2020 figures. I just had to update the year. But in South Africa, there's 14 hectares. And I couldn't really find the specific products that was grown organically, but it was only 14 hectares in South Africa. So clearly, in South Africa, it's not working, or the concept is not being embraced, or there's something that is a stumbling block, or some motivational factors are not there to produce organic. But again, so in South Africa, it's actually none. But again, if you look at other countries, China's got 51,000 hectares of organic fruit. France has got 16,000 hectares. Yes, you can say it's subsidies. Italy's got 19,000 hectares. Czech Republic, don't think there's subsidies. There is 3,500 hectares. Turkey, not sure, there's no subsidies there. 20,000 hectares. Poland, 10,000 hectares. Spain, 6,000 hectares. USA, 18,000 hectares. Now, we can, again, debate the merit of all of this, but there is definitely organic production that's working in the world. And again, you can ask the question, why are we not doing it in South Africa? Maybe conventional farming is still profitable enough. Maybe there's no need to do it. I mean, you can have a long debate about that. But then maybe also, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of these concepts, but what's the benefits and challenges of organic? Now, the benefits is increased biodiversity, increased soil fertility, increased water holding capacity, higher organic matter, carbon storage, a lot of things that's obvious with organics. That is the benefits. But the challenges, yes, indeed, there's an increased pest and disease risk. That is without a shadow of a doubt. There's lower yields because, I mean, your culling factor is much higher. And it's a cumbersome and expensive certification process. But again, somewhere in the world, growers are embracing it and, in a way, making it work. So, and this builds up to the question, what is the stumbling blocks that's keeping a South African grower back to do it? And again, I wanted to take it a little bit further to understand the thinking process. So if you then, so in my research, I wanted to determine the stumbling blocks in the production of organic food. And I also wanted to measure, in a way, the willingness of the participants in the survey to convert. Because it's if you want to ask your wife, can I go to the rugby on Saturday, you must first just measure your willingness if it's okay. So, to measure the willingness of growers to produce organically, and to understand what's the most important stumbling blocks. What's going on in the thinking process of growers? And I think all of you, and I mean there's a lot of growers here, would exactly know what's going on in your thinking process, but I wanted to understand a little bit, is there a trend? And then what is the motivational factors to do that? And how can industry get growers to produce fruit organically? So I wanted to understand what growers are thinking, and if that could possibly be translated into research that can add value, where one can maybe work out a strategy to get this process going. So the research method, we don't have to go through that, but it was a survey, and I mean the target population is all the deciduous fruit farms in the Western Cape. It was a questionnaire, convenience sampling, and it was surveys. And then the results. So what's the current status? So 0% of the growers in the survey was formally organically certified. So I didn't have any participants that was organically certified. 67% of the growers in the survey were of the opinion that they already apply some organic practices. So that's extremely positive. So we already are doing something. Then 28% of the participants said that they are of the opinion that they can do even more. So there was even a willingness to do more in terms of sustainability and environmental safe practices. And I must say, our fruit industry in the Western Cape is already very proactive with that. So I was not surprised with these results, but it was very promising. Then, the perception about fruit growing. All the growers agreed that consumers are becoming more concerned about food safety. We just heard what Paul was saying, and that is extremely true, and it'll just become more and more of an important factor. Also, all the growers agreed, or most of the growers agreed, that consumers are becoming more concerned about how food is produced. And remember, we are more and more now going to start producing food for millennials who is asking these questions. And then growers also agreed that consumers perceive organic fruit to be more safe for human consumption. And again, COVID just showed us that human health is extremely important. I mean, we can shut down the world to protect human health. So it is a very, very important factor. Then the results that came through. So what was the 6 most important stumbling blocks in the minds of growers in South Africa that they do not think that organic production will work for them? And this was extremely interesting. The first one is the lack of knowledge about organic production and having to learn something new. We just sorted out conventional farming. Now we have to learn something new. So this was the first stumbling block, the lack of knowledge of what organic farming really is about, and that we have to learn something new. The second one is the lack of government support. Now, we don't have to use the word government there. We can use the word a higher industry body, organization, a bit of a big brother situation that can support this whole strategy. The third stumbling block was the 3-year conversion period that can cause financial distress because, I mean, you cannot sell the fruit as organic and you can have losses selling it as conventional. The fourth one is the cumbersome and difficult certification process, which could be really a tedious process. And then the price premiums cannot be guaranteed because, I mean, if supply is increasing, the price premiums can decrease. And then the sixth one, which I thought would have been the number one stumbling block, was pest and disease risks. So the participants in the survey didn't really see pest and disease risk as the number one stumbling block. And that I actually have to give thumbs up for the growers because that is exactly our South African mentality. We can fix all problems. We can sort it out. And I thought that would have been the number one stumbling block, but it wasn't. The number one stumbling block was the lack of knowledge and having to learn something new. Then the motivational factors. What must be there in order for me to even consider converting to organic farming? And the number one motivational factor came through as the internal conviction to farm more sustainably and environmentally friendly. You must believe that the concept is going to enhance your sustainability and is going to protect the planet. It must be an internal belief. And with that internal belief, you will be able to take the ups and the downs. I mean, if you want to achieve an Olympic record, you must believe that you can do it, and you will go through ups and downs. And this is because now it's becoming a psychological thing. It's not becoming a rand and cent thing or economy. You must believe that it's the right thing to do and that you want to do it. The second one, is a very quick PowerPoint presentation. The second one was financial reward. So participants said they must have financial reward, otherwise they're not going to do it. I expected that to be number one, but that was actually number two. The third one, there must be someone or somebody to share the risk, because it's a huge risk to do it. And then the fourth one, there's a need for success stories. I think any one of you can recall some failure stories of organics in South Africa, but we need success stories to cling on to in a period when it will be difficult to do it, because it's not going to be necessarily easy. So we need success stories. So how can we translate that into a value proposition? So we also looked at the willingness to convert in terms of the sample that we've done. So the willingness to convert the whole farm to organic, according to the participants, or the willingness to convert part of the farm to organic was much lower than the willingness to convert some practices on your farm to organic, or the willingness to convert to other sustainable initiatives. So in the sample that I've taken, although it was a very fruitful discussion, the participants in the sample was very reluctant to just embrace organic, which I expected. Then how can we then work towards a bit of a value proposition and a plan? So the suggested action plan, should we want to increase the organic production in South Africa, should focus on 2 pillars. The first one is to educate and inform and get government or an industry body or a sponsor type of body on board, assist growers to get conversion going, constantly assist growers to combat pest and disease, because that will be the biggest fight. The second one is to create environmental awareness. I think we already have that, but I think it needs to be very much intensified. Make sure markets are in place with a price premium, start pilot projects, create a community of organic growers, and then create success stories. That is coming through as a central team. There must be success stories. And then in summary, and to come back to my initial question, where there was a lot of demand and questions asked for organic produce from South Africa, which we don't have, should we think that it's an industry initiative that in South Africa we should start to embrace organics, because it's not going away, the demand is just increasing. We have to start with the right foundation. And the first pillar of this foundation is definitely to inform and educate and run pilot projects. And the second one is to create an intense awareness of the conservation of the planet. And that must give us success stories. Once we have one success story, it will flow over to the next one, and we will most probably have a few others. But yeah, it was more a philosophical concept that I researched, but it was something that really boggled my mind. Why are South Africa not doing anything in terms of organics, but in other countries, it's being embraced as a key part of their production practices. So yeah, in short, this is what my story was all about. Thank you very much.